If you're a coach or consultant and you're relying on these methods that I'm about to explain in order to get clients, you're probably failing or you've already failed. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you exactly what those things are and what to do instead. Now, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Lloyd Yip, founder of Attract and Scale. I was actually the director of sales at a startup that scaled from 0 to 2.5 million in just 18 months. And then I went on to start my own company that's been able to scale to 60K per month. So I'm gonna be going to my screen share right now just to walk you through exactly some of these strategies and tactics that I've learned over the years. So there's gonna be three primary methods that most coaches and consultants are using to try to build their businesses right now. And I'm just gonna skewer them because, to be honest, in 2023 and likely into the next couple years, they're not gonna work very well. So the first method is actually just running cold outreach. So let me actually create a diagram here so it's easier for you to visualize. So what most people do is they'll just like run high volumes of cold outreach, whether that be on Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, email. They'll just run high volumes of cold outbound outreach into a particular prospect, and hopefully they're able to book a call. Now, the reason why this doesn't work is because people are just super skeptical these days. I mean, gone are the days where you could just pretty much approach someone online having built no trust with zero branding, zero authority, and for them to actually feel like you're credible enough that they'll buy your stuff. Doesn't really work that way anymore. And part of the reason is because people have just been burned many times. At this point, most people have actually bought stuff online, coaching, consulting services, and a lot of these products frankly don't work. So now that they're seeing additional people trying to DM them, and they're thinking back to the trauma that they might have had in the past buying inferior products, it's hard for them to now think about this new stranger who's selling this new product and be like, okay, yeah, this is gonna work out, right? So there's a lot of scar tissue there. But the other thing is just like market saturation. You have so many DMs and so many emails going out every single day. And frankly, when 20 other of your competition are utilizing the same strategy, you just don't really stand out anymore. So this is like one way that does not work. Now, wait until the end. I'll actually share with you the approach that I would take that is going to actually be able to succeed in today's landscape when it comes to generating high ticket coaching, consulting, or agency clients. But for now, I'm just gonna say that this particular approach does not really work. So we're gonna give that a big red, all right? So the next approach, obviously, the goal is still to generate a call, right? But this next approach is taking the route of just trying to create organic content, all right? Now, organic content is great, and it overrides the issue that I think some companies have in regards of, oh, people don't trust me, they're skeptical. Cold outreach in particular just doesn't build enough know, like, and trust factor for them to actually buy, and therefore content theoretically should be valuable. But the problem is that most of the time, even if your content is good, and let's just assume for a fact that it is, because obviously bad content's not gonna work at all, but let's assume your content's actually good. The issue is if you're sharing a ton of content but no one actually sees it, then it's not gonna be able to convert for you, right? And most of the time, even if people have a very consistent content posting calendar, they're just not getting enough impressions and enough eyeballs for it to really make a splash. Think about YouTube, for example, right? I have a YouTube channel. It's been growing organically, but for the first like several months, it wasn't able to generate me massive results. Of course, I was able to hit an inflection point where the algorithm was able to finally get me enough eyeballs for it to make an impact. But the reality is, organic content, for many people, it'll just take months and months before they're getting enough eyeballs. So it's just very long-term of a strategy. And even more importantly than just the fact that organic algorithms don't really help most coaches and consultants out these days, the bigger issue is that even if your traffic and even if the audience that sees your content likes it, most of the time, people are not going to actually convert. Most people are much more likely to just consume the content without actually taking any particular action. And even with a call to action such as, oh, book a call with me, a lot of the times they're just not going to want to take that step because they lack the urgency or they lack the desire to actually make a massive change. So that's why most of the time organic content by itself, although it's important, doesn't really move the needle enough. So that's why this also gets a big red, it's red. It's not a big red anything. It's just I'm putting this in red. The next thing that I would say is ads, right? So paid ads. So this is also going to be in red, because not to say that paid ads don't work, they do work, but it's the way in which you're typically running the funnel. And what most people do in our coaching consulting agency world is they'll run paid traffic into a video sales letter, a VSL. And hopefully from that VSL, someone books a call. Now, historically, this has worked really, really well back when like Sam Ovens and Frank Kern and Russell Brunson, when they kind of pioneered this idea of just deploying webinars or long form videos, it was able to circumvent the issue with organic content that there just aren't enough eyeballs. Obviously, if you're just paying for eyeballs, you're able to make this work. And in the same way, because of the fact that there is content here compared to like a cold outreach channel, yes, of course, paid ads, you're going to a cold audience, but if you're driving people into this VSL funnel, then they should be warmer because they're seeing 20 or 30 minutes of your stuff. So theoretically, this funnel should be solving the issues that appear with the cold outreach or the organic content. But the problem right now is that because so many people do this, and also because the market has reached a certain level of sophistication where they've seen a lot of paid ads into VSL funnels, it's just gotten really expensive. So the problem here is the cost of call, right? Before, if you could generate a cost per call at like $200 or $250, you were typically pretty okay. And if you're selling like a higher ticket offer, 3K, 5K, 7K, that ROAS is fine. You're looking at a 3 to 5x ROAS. But the issue is today, you're probably looking closer to 450 and above cost per call. So your ROAS has been like essentially cut in half. So this is problematic for people who are trying to run media buying. So the question is, if this set of strategies, whether it be paid ads into a VSL or just organic content to a call or cold outreach to a call, if it doesn't really work anymore, then what does work? So I'm gonna actually share with you the methodology right now, but before I do, please just like, comment, and subscribe. Helps a lot. I obviously drop new videos every single week to give you a hand when it comes to scaling out your high ticket coaching consulting agency business. All right, so if those strategies didn't work before, then what will work? So let me actually break it down to you now that we've created a little bit of space. So the first thing that needs to be done is that there needs to be some way of indoctrinating the customer. The prospect, like I said before, if they don't trust you, if they don't feel as though you're actually an expert in the space, then they're just gonna compare you to literally any other stranger that cold DMs them. And that means with a high degree of skepticism, and they're not gonna really wanna buy. They're not gonna even wanna jump on a call. So we wanna indoctrinate people. So that's gonna be this middle to bottom of the funnel section. So how do we do that? Obviously, it's gonna be content, but what type of content? My preference is long form audio and video content. So the reason why this works is because long form audio and video content allows you to actually show people exactly how to do something. It allows you to actually develop a little bit of a personal brand and a connection and a relationship with the particular prospect at hand. And what better method is there to do this than, in my opinion, YouTube, to be honest. Like, YouTube has been, for me, my best performing channel in the last year or so. And back in 2020, when I was first getting started in my business, I would say that I was able to indoctrinate people really well with just text-based content on LinkedIn and Facebook. But to be honest, those particular channels these days have become a little bit commoditized. There's so many people posting there because there's no barriers of entry. Literally anyone can post there, right? Whereas it just takes a lot more effort in order to do YouTube. But when you can actually do it well, you'll actually develop a certain level of trust that no other platform can provide. So YouTube is the best. Now, in terms of what you would be sharing on YouTube, my recommendations would be not just shorts, not just memes or stupid little videos that are much more so to get clicks rather than building trust. No, like I would do longer form how-tos and ultimate guides and tutorials and like in-depth insight into how a particular person could actually achieve certain goals or overcome certain obstacles. You want to essentially give away the farm, and you want to be able to give them so much free value that when they think about you, they're like, wow, if the free value is this good, then working with them must be way better, right? So that's kind of the approach that I would take. Now, of course, at the end of every YouTube video and in the description box, there should always be a call to action to try to push people to book a call. That is still the goal. of these videos. We're not just trying to like collect subscribers and viewers for the sake of it, right? Like it doesn't really mean anything unless we can fully monetize. So that's why we want to have that particular call to action. But the question is, how do you actually make sure that people even see your YouTube videos in the first place? Because the problem is if you're just using YouTube in its traditional way, which is you create content once, twice, 3 times a week, and you let the algorithm essentially try to find you the audience base, it's gonna take forever, right? And for me, it took me months before I was able to actually get a single paying client from YouTube, and it's because I relied on the algorithm, right? Which is great, like slow and steady wins the race, and if you have great content, over time, you're always gonna win. Consistency with great content, you're gonna win. But if you're a business owner and you already have a company and you already have an offer that you wanna sell and you don't have the patience necessarily to wait 3 to 6 months before you can monetize your YouTube channel, then this is why we're gonna be deploying the second part of our strategy, which is proactive traffic into your YouTube channel. So what does that mean? Well, that just means essentially we are going to try to push traffic to the YouTube channel on our own from external sources rather than waiting for YouTube's algorithm to take care of that. So there's 2 ways that you can actually deploy this, all right? So the first way is you can just do automated and organic outreach. So this is kind of similar to above when we were doing cold outreach, whether it be Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, email. But the problem here is that they don't really know who you are when you do the initial outreach message, and then you're already trying to pitch them. So of course they say no, whereas here, we understand that doing this outreach typically leads to people maybe engaging with the conversation, but not necessarily wanting to commit because they don't know us enough. Well, instead of having them commit on day 1, why don't we just push them into our content, right? Ask them, hey, what are the problems that you're dealing with? And instead of taking those problems and being like, hey, let's jump on a call, I can fix them. No, you just send them your pillar YouTube videos and achieve a level of trust building there because you're actually now trying to help out. And if they see the content and it's good content, then they can actually see that you've been able to fix their problems. And the nice thing is, we're not asking you to create that many YouTube videos. You really only need a handful. And as long as they're all good, as long as they're long form and they can actually solve the specific problems that your ideal buyer has. And that's the key thing, right? If you're just coming up with a bunch of random content, a bunch of YouTube videos that is more because you just want to create those videos and it feels good for yourself, rather than being incredibly strategic about which videos you create, about which topics, which problems that you're specifically trying to solve for your audience, if you don't have that intentionality behind your videos, then it's going to fail. But if you do have that intentionality and you know that every single video is custom tailored to specifically solve major problems that your audience has, then you only need like 3 or 4 videos, if even, because those are the ones that when you send to people, it'll make a massive impact, right? So that's one way. And obviously, with every single social media platform, there's a way that you can make this incredibly automated. You could have automated outreach, whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter. Those are channels that you can automate. Or if it's Instagram or Facebook, which is a little bit more difficult to automate, you can still deploy virtual assistants with conversation scripts, and they can just do this once again in a fairly autopilot way for you. And if every single day you're sending out on one channel or even multiple channels, 50, 100, 200 of those messages every single day, and you're pushing people into your channel, then you're gonna have a higher volume of people seeing your content. And obviously, be specific about who you're going after. Build lists intelligently, and if you don't really know how to do that, check out my YouTube channel. I have lots and lots of videos about how to be very hyper-targeted in your list building, whether it be on LinkedIn or some of these other social media platforms. But this will allow you to proactively drive traffic to your content, which then can push people into calls, right? So this is the method that I would say is good for beginners, because automated outreach is cheap, right? You don't need to spend very much money to deploy a software to run your outreach or like have a VA do your outreach for you. But it's harder to scale. So the next thing that I would say is, if you want to just throw money at the problem and have it be solved much faster, then this is where you would start running paid ads, right? Driving traffic to your YouTube channel via paid ads is going to be a much more scalable methodology of getting to your end goal than just sending out a bunch of DMs. obviously. But the question is, how do you do this? We're not just going to be like driving paid traffic into a VSL in this case, but we also don't want to just drive traffic directly into your YouTube channel with YouTube ads, because to be honest, that doesn't have the highest degree of success from the tests that I've ran. And I've actually like spoken to many people who use YouTube for their businesses, and a lot of them weren't able to generate really good results from just like driving views and impressions into the YouTube channel. So what my recommendation to you instead would be is to actually leverage paid ads on another platform, such as Instagram or LinkedIn, right? So those are just examples, right? Like IG and LinkedIn as examples, but you wouldn't be running a typical conversion. And what I mean by a conversion ad is an ad that takes you off the social media platform, so let's say Instagram or LinkedIn, and it pushes you onto your website where you have some sort of form or opt-in that your prospect would have to fill out. Now, does that work? To collect emails, of course, and historically that's what this funnel has always been about, right? Like they go to your website, they fill out an email form, and then they get to see a video of yours. But the problem is that it's A, like way more expensive, right? But B, if you actually have them convert on just your website, but not on the social media platform itself, then you're not gonna be able to then use social media to your advantage. And the biggest advantage of social media is that you can DM people, right? If you actually are able to find their contact information on social media, maybe you get their LinkedIn profile URL or their Instagram bio, you're now going to be able to DM them. So there's a lot of value that is actually to be had in just running follower campaigns. And that's actually what my recommendation is. Whether it be on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, run follower campaigns so that instead of them needing to go to your website and fill out their email, they just need to follow your page or like your content or comment on your content. And once they do that, you'll actually have access to their social media profile in which you can DM them your YouTube content, right? And that's essentially how you can now simultaneously have the ability to DM them while also being able to send them directly the content to your YouTube channel, right? Right there in the DMs. And obviously, you don't necessarily have to drive them to YouTube via the DMs. You could just have YouTube videos inside your actual profile itself, right? So my Instagram, I'll have links into my YouTube channel. Same thing in my LinkedIn profile, I have links to my YouTube channel, and that's like another way that people can go there once they've actually converted into your ad, which once again isn't a conversion in the normal sense where they're giving you an email on your website. It's just a matter of them like following you or liking or commenting on the actual ad itself, right? So the final element that I would say here that can maximize value is having a setter. And this is going to flow really quite nicely with the fact that we have their social media, right? So let me explain first what a setter does. A setter, their sole job is to essentially fill up your calendar and book meetings directly with the prospects. And the reason why this is important is because most of the time, even if someone sees your content, they're not going to act. They're not going to actually book a call just from liking your video. And that was like the biggest issue with the organic content to call aspect here, right? Because a lot of people see your stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna take action on it. So when left to their own devices, most people are kind of lazy, and maybe only 1 out of 10 people will actually book a meeting all on their own. The way that we can solve this is we actually have a setter that's proactively DMing them. Let's say someone engages with their content, they watch all the way through your video, they liked it, they shared it, but they didn't book a meeting. Well, instead of just waiting for them to hopefully see more content down the line and eventually book a meeting, your setter is just going to be DMing them and say, hey, I noticed that you followed our account. What's up? What's your situation? Hey, I noticed that you liked our piece of content. I noticed that you followed us. I noticed that you attended our webinar. What's happening? What's up with you? And via those DMs, that person's already kind of warm, so they're much more likely and willing to have a conversation. And then your setter can just qualify, figure out if they're a good fit, and then book a meeting, right? And if they're not really ready to book a meeting yet, your setter can also just proactively send them the content that you have in your library and get them a little bit more warm, and then maybe a couple days after that, they can follow up and obviously book them into a call. So that's kind of the idea here, where the setter's ability to be proactive is what ultimately allows you to generate more calls. And this is a strategy that you just simply cannot deploy if you don't run the follower ads, because once again, like the follower ads allow you to actually connect with someone and have access to their social media URL. And then you can DM them. But if you were to just try to push someone into your website and collect their email, you can email them, but to be honest, like the open rates on emails these days are so much lower than the open rates on like DMs on social media. So getting the email but not getting access to the actual DMs itself means that you miss out on this entire ability to actually be proactive. And I would actually say, I'll even show you first off, like the back end of our setter tracking sheet, because we track everything religiously, because if you don't measure something, then you're not going to be able to improve it. So what I just opened up here right now is our setter conversation tracking sheet. And obviously, we're super religious about tracking everything in terms of our setters' daily results, because if you don't measure something, you're not going to be able to improve it. And I'm just sharing with you here, like the success of our setter the last couple of weeks, in particular in the last month of June. They're booking like on average 10 to 15 calls every single week. And it's funny because when you compare the number of calls that our setters book per week compared to the amount of calls that we book from prospects just like automatically finding a calendar link and booking on their own, we probably book 4 to 5 times more calls with the setter than from people booking on their own. And the nice thing is, like, because all the setters talk to are somewhat warm people, they're talking to people who've seen the YouTube channel, or they're talking to people who've seen our top of the funnel content on social media, it's just much easier for them to have that conversation with them rather than trying to do a cold conversation, which is much harder to convert, obviously, right? So that's really the power of the setter. So you look at this entire process here, which I'm going to give a huge green to, because green means it works, and it does work really well. We have this middle of the funnel ability to indoctrinate people and get them to know, like, and trust us, so that they don't just perceive us as like anyone else who's just cold pitching them. But then we don't just rely on the algorithm here to generate us results. Like we're going to be utilizing the ability for us to generate intentional traffic from either paid or organic, and then from there we're going to actually have a setter which ensures that these people are actually booking calls, that we're actually monetizing the audience rather than waiting for them to hopefully book one day down the line. So this is the system that I would highly recommend. It's the reason why a lot of our clients are doing 50K or even 100K per month plus. And it's going to be the reason why we're going to continue to scale when a lot of other companies are just not able to do so this day and age. So if this is something that you actually want to embed for yourself, then just book a call with me down below, or follow me on social media, right? Hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram, where my setter team is more than happy to talk to you. You can just ask them some questions if you would prefer, because maybe you don't want to necessarily commit to a call yet. I've helped over 130 plus clients around the world in the agency, coaching, consulting space achieve some pretty awesome results. So if that's something that you're pretty eager in, then yeah, like I said, go to the bottom, book a call, have a conversation with us. And if there's nothing more, then I'll just see you with the next video. Cheers.